on. We're going to talk about Isle of Dogs, and we were talking a little bit beforehand about the characterization of these dogs and how it feels kind of thin, okay? And this is one of those movies, too, where it's like, you know what? I'm going to say right now, at the end of the day, I did like it. I would recommend it. I wouldn't advise against seeing it, the whole 9. I think it's a decent movie, but I'm going to be critiquing a lot of things with it. At least I am going to be critiquing a lot of things, so it's going to sound like more of a negative review, but I do think that there is a lot of positives.
I'm going to jump on that by saying I think if you have an appreciation for everything technical with the film and animation wise, yes, go see this film, because to me it's worth it for that aspect as well. It is style, I think, over substance at the end of the day.
I do too. I definitely agree, because let's bring up this too. I think if there's any theme that could be drawn from this movie, it's interwoven, in my opinion, not as seamlessly as you would think, but it talks about sort of the real danger of like propaganda and how propaganda is used to keep powerful but problematic people in an office, particularly in this case, Mayor Kobayashi. Mayor Kobayashi. And this thing though, here's the other difficulty I think Anderson has with this. Is, like I said, there's 3 main story arcs in this movie. Just to break it down, you got the story with the dogs and Atari Kobayashi. You have the story of the professor trying to find a serum for the dog flu, plus Mayor Kobayashi intertwined with that, trying to stop that. And then you have Greta Gerwig's character. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you saw it differently. Greta Gerwig's student character is so useless.
I'm not kidding. I texted him man, and then I went on Xbox to talk about him, and the first thing I said to him was, they could have done without Greta Gerwig's character in this movie.
I was talking to
She is literally there just to explain what's going on. When we know what's going on through visual, visually they're doing it fine. She's just there to explain it in English.
And that's what bothers me too, because the other thing is, surprised it took us this long to mention it, but we need to mention it. The other thing with this movie is that it's in Japanese for the most part. The dogs speak English, but the humans speak unsubtitled Japanese until it's like absolutely necessary that their language be translated towards the third act.
Yeah.
And so it takes the tire spin like you don't know what dogs are saying. You can't communicate with
it's
dogs.
obviously chosen for that style.
That's what it is. But Greta Gerwig's character, and this is where this movie's getting controversy too, is because Greta Gerwig's character shows up like Johnny-come-lately in the movie. She shows up, which is a term I need to start using more. She shows up like
a white savior.
Johnny-come-lately, I'm saying, is like the new. It's a war term. I think it's like it's the term of like when somebody like a new guy comes in and like steals the limelight.
Oh, okay.
No, but the white savior thing is more applicable. Okay. And I was talking to Kevin, who was supposed to be on the show today but couldn't make it, unfortunately. I was talking to him in class today, and I told him, I said, the white savior narrative gets critiqued a lot, and I'm not here to defend it in a lot of cases, but I'm just going to say this. Here's the thing. Not every movie where a white character is portrayed as a protagonist or a hero is a white savior. I think a white savior movie is this. I think a white savior movie happens when you have a predominantly minority cast, and then you have sort of a questionably relevant white character in the mix too. I think there's also the element too of a white savior character where it's like how well are they interworked into the plot, and are they contextualized in a story sense and an individual sense. And it's like, no for Greta Gerwig's character.
So, like, to give an example, imagine in Black Panther, Martin Freeman saves Wakanda.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Because, again, this movie takes place in Japanese. It bleeds Japanese culture, at least in sort of a surface kind of, recognizably.
All the animation, like the architecture of the buildings, all Japanese, architecture.
Yeah. The archipelago shown really for its architecture. Then you have the sumo, you have the kabuki theaters.
The instruments used in the soundtrack.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. That this is how you can tell it's a white savior narrative. I believe that term's overused, but at the same time, like I said, you look at really what it is the white character in a predominantly minority, cast of minorities in a movie. Are they individually and narratively contextualized well? Do they hold their own sort of as a character? And are they integral to the plot? And Greta Gerwig's not any of those.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I think when she comes, I actually would go as far to say when her Tracy character comes, it stalls a little bit, because it's almost like as soon as she comes on, again, correct me if I'm wrong, when she comes on, the dogs are kind of abandoned then.
Yeah.
The dogs are kind of left a little bit. Like, and I don't think people are expecting that. Like 2/3 of the way in late in the second act, the focus shifts really from the dogs to the Kobayashi family and then Tracy. Which I don't think many people are expecting.
For me, it felt like whenever she came on, it was let's recap the events of the film now. And like every time she came on, she would just talk about what's happening with the Mayor Kobayashi stuff and the scientists. It was just a recap of those events, which when you go to those events during the film and you see them play out throughout the film, like you said, they're only in Japanese, and you're only able to tell what's going on through visual and like sometimes like little subtitles. Like it will zoom in on something and be like, you'll see like Japanese text and then below it American, like English translation or whatever. It's like she comes in and just explains what we just saw. And it was literally just that. She was just there to recap what we just saw.
You don't feel like there's any substance to her character or nothing of those sorts. But moving on, though, that was, I think, my biggest complaint with this is that I think the structure for a 98-minute movie, this thing kind of has too much going on for a 98-minute movie.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where I think at the end it feels sort of bloated, and that's what gets it to like wrap up a little bit too quickly. But I think that was my biggest complaint, and then coupled with the fact that I don't find, and I hate to criticize Greta Gerwig, she's one of my favorite actresses working today. She just serves no role here.
Yeah.
And I was jokingly telling Kevin, too. After the movie, too. Is that I was telling him, I said, this movie was written by Wes Anderson, but the story was written by 4 people. Wes Anderson, Kunichi Nomura, who plays Mayor Kobayashi in the film, Roman Coppola, and Jason Schwartzman. I made the joke to him. I said, I could tell you why this movie is so weird and discombobulated. Roman Coppola had a hand in it, too. Roman Coppola, I'll just say this, Roman Coppola sucks. As a writer and a director,
I gotta see what else he's written.
I say too, like, Nicolas Cage is related to the Coppola family. You know that, right? So I was gonna say, if anybody should have the last name Cage over Coppola, he should be Nicolas Coppola, and Roman Coppola should be Roman Cage. I'm telling you, because Roman Coppola, he's made a lot of really either questionable or just bad movies, in my opinion.
Let's see.
He did A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III. You remember that one with Charlie Sheen? He did that one.
I don't remember that one.
Nobody does. Nobody on this campus knows what that movie is.
Wow, yeah, he hasn't written anything since then.
Yeah, I don't like Roman Coppola a lot. The other one that he made that I remember when it came out, which is weird because this is such a strange thing, was CQ. Was a CQ that came out in the early part of the decade, or the part of the last decade. So that was what I was joking with my buddy with. I said, like, that's one of the reasons that this thing is so weird is because Roman Coppola, of all the Coppolas, had to have a hand in this. At least that's my opinion.
Oh, he directs a lot of Green Day music videos. That's cool, I guess.
He should stick to it, in my opinion. But anyway, so that was one thing I think too. I said I think that the fact that this had 4 people, just objectively speaking, too, I think that the fact that this had 4 people in it, it kind of got pulled in a lot of weird directions.
Yeah.
Especially away from the dogs, And I was gonna say, what else did you notice?
I mean, yeah, kind of going off of you, like whenever it did focus on the dogs, that's when I was really liking the film, especially when it focused on Atari and Chief. Is when they had their interactions. That's when I was really enjoying the film. I'm like, wow, I like seeing Chief open up to having a master, having an owner. I like seeing Atari rekindle a love rekindle his love with a dog basically again, because he lost his dog 6 months. It's been 6 months since he's seen his dog, so he's just like, loving being around a dog again. It's like, it's great to see that. And like when you're not focused on that, you kind of lose the heart of the movie.
Yeah. And I totally agree, too, because that's also, I think, one of the reasons you responded so well to it, and I did, too, really, the relationship between Chief and Atari. And then, too, we were kind of lowballing the significance of this, too, is Chief and Nutmeg, to the dog Nutmeg.
I forgot about Nutmeg.
Voiced by Scarlett Johansson. Again, because I think there's a lot too much going on in this movie. But I think when you have chief and Atari, the reason you like that scene so much, the reason I like those scenes so much, is because it lets you into. It's that point when Anderson's letting you into the movie, where it's like you can feel for the characters. There's a relationship at hand, and I think a lot of the lesser Wes Anderson movies, the second tier movies, which I would put Isle of Dogs in, unfortunately, I think a lot of those movies, the reason that they're there and they don't live up to like Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest Hotel, Royal Tenenbaums, is because they're so emotionally distant.
Yeah,
that they prevent this kind of contact or this kind of empathy that really works. And you're used to, let's be honest, you're used to that in movies. You're used to going to movies and trying to feel for the characters. So to see somebody do something like this, to try to almost do everything that they can to keep you away from the characters, it plays, I think, with your sort of movie-going sensibilities. Yeah. In a way that a lot of people are not used to. Can I make the argument too? I want to say this. Can I make this argument that I think that the deadpan. I always took. Have you seen for a cat person? Okay, I did. Look, have you seen the guy who wears like chartreuse suits,
got like 6 scarves on,
suit jackets, and he's got patches on the elbows? He looks like a cat person. You know what I mean? Looks like he has like a couple cats in his study.
It's probably got a cat's underneath that jacket.
The thing with Wes Anderson though is that, and I like him, but don't you think? And maybe this is just me being dumb, okay? Because I haven't found anybody else that kind of agrees with me on this. Don't you think that like Wes Anderson's style, deadpan, detail-oriented, sort of straight-on shots, kind of weird dialogue, don't you, like, especially the way that the dogs speak, don't you think that kind of dialogue and that kind of mannerism is better suited for cats? Like, could you see cats speaking the way these dogs are?
But Steve, nobody likes cats.
Yeah, okay, we ain't gonna talk about that now. But I know I love cats for one. But I said in my review, I said most dogs look like, in real life, most dogs look like they would speak with like an excited, unmistakably enthusiastic
like
cadence. Yes, but on the other hand, I said cats look like the type of creature that would have the same emotional monotone reaction to reacting to your death to like their contentment with their food. Yeah. Like, and I think that would work better for this. You know what I mean? Like, I almost think that the cat
should have been Isle of Cats.
It should have been Isle of Cats. I think that would have been interesting, and I think that, like I said, the monotone aspect of the characters, it would have fit better with cats.